Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 74. Big Box Steve on the mic, the Big Smooth and Fresh West. Back from a quick hiatus, back into football season. I can't say that I'm not excited because it's that time of year. Summer's nice, a lot of stuff happening, but it's nice to get back into football season. It's something I can't wait until football season happens. So it's nice to get back there. So with the change in football season, for our listeners, most of you, some of you that do listen, actually, a lot of you may not, but we get heavily back into football. We're gonna bring you a top five at the end of every episode. So we'll stick with some top fives for you. And also, we're going to introduce a new segment of HSC Podcast. And at the beginning, we're going to do HSC Podcast Trivia. And so Derek and Wes will be the contestants. So no Googling, stay off your phone, stay off your computer. And I'm going to make an easy one. So just so you know, the reason for listeners and why we're doing this is I did get some feedback from listeners that they liked that trivia we did a few episodes back. And so we're going to throw a little trivia in to get started. Okay. Off the phones, off the computers. You guys, this is the competition.
Off the computers. Okay.
Yeah, no, the competition between Fresh West and the Big Smooth. In honor of our last episode, we are doing Star Wars trivia. So I'll give you each question. You get a chance to answer that question. If you answer the question, you get a point. If you can't answer it within a good amount of time, I'll buzz you, and then the other guy will get a chance to steal the point. You guys ready? All right. We'll start with Derek. Big Smooth. You get the lead off. We're talking Star Wars trivia. How many forms of communication was C3PO programmed for?
1 million.
Eh.
What?
Wes, you get a chance at it?
Uh,
3, 2.
It's not really a number. He says
No,
over
answer.
1 million forms of communication.
No, we'll hear the answer. Wes, you got an answer?
I don't know.
No. He says over 6 million.
Oh, well,
6
that's over a
million.
million too.
Point of fact, I actually got that one right when Holly asked me the question. All right, so no points awarded that round. Wes, you get to start first. How old was Yoda when Luke returned to Dagobah system?
Too old.
Too old. he says it in there when he's dying.
Oh. 900.
900. Point for Wes. Good job.
900 years too old.
Yeah. When you're 900 years old, see how you look. All right, Wes is up 1-0. But we get to go back to Derek because that's the third one. What is the name of the snow monster that attacks Luke on Hoth? What are they called?
A Wampa.
Wampa. Good job. 1-1. All right, Wes. So when Princess Leia lies to Grand Moff Tarkin about the rebel base, what planet does she say it's located on?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Dantooine.
Dantooine, right there. You got it. 2-1. Fresh West in the lead.
Boy, I'm really this
This is good. All right, Big Smooth. When Obi-Wan performed the blood test on Anakin, how high was his midi-chlorian count?
Oh God.
Really?
Oh no.
I don't know.
An epic part of episode 1.
Anything with midichlorians is not epic. So
because he has the highest ever. Come on. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. Wes, you got a guess?
All I remember is Obi-Wan saying it's off the charts.
Right. But what
Don't
was that
remember the
charge?
number. I don't remember the number after it.
The number was 20,000.
Okay.
20,000 or higher midichlorians. All right, so that was Derek. That was yours. Wes, 2-1. You got a chance to go to 3-1. How old was Padme when she was elected queen in Naboo?
14.
14. Boom. 3-1 on Wes. All right, Derek, I need a comeback here. What was Anakin's mom's name?
Shimmy.
Shmi Skywalker. Good. 3-2. All right, last two questions. So, Wes, if you get it right, you win. Who had a purple lightsaber in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones?
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu. All right, Wes,
Come
4-2.
That was some
4-2.
easy questions for Wes.
No, so Wes got the easy questions. All right, well, Derek, we'll give you the last question. That was going to be a tiebreaker in case you tied. What did Luke bullseye in Beggar's Canyon?
Womp rats.
Swamp rats. So at least you got 4-3. Winner of today's trivia, Fresh West. So the only one we didn't get. I don't know how you guys didn't get the forms of communication at C3PO. And then we didn't get the midichlorian count. So good job on the Star Wars trivia. Winner of the HSC trivia, Fresh West.
Dang, I actually won something. Awesome.
Okay, so today let's jump into today's podcast. We're going to talk a little bit of football, some sports, and then we'll hit our top 5 to finish off the episode. So as we jump into football and sports, before we jump into NFL, we got to quickly talk about Pac-12.
Boo.
I mean, it's the Pac-4 now, right?
It might be the Pac-2 here pretty soon.
Yeah, because Oregon State and Washington State go to the Mountain West, aren't they?
Right.
Well, no, they're talking about Cal and Stanford going to ACC.
No, they were ACC said no.
Oh, they did?
Decline.
Yeah.
Why would they want them?
Yeah,
On the other side of the country, they're not that good at teams.
They're Cal and Stanford.
Yeah, I mean,
They'd raise their academic levels at least.
right, by a considerable amount. So let's just talk about let's first talk about obviously Oregon and Washington, following USC, UCLA. What's the positive here for this? What's the negative here? Like, what do you guys think?
Well, I think the one positive about the Pac-12 disappearing is I won't have to sit there and get pissed off every year that they suck at sports. But,
Well, speaking of sports, because I mean, football tends to be the major focus, but who is that? Some coach from Missouri, maybe. He made a really good point in a press conference. He was talking about the baseball teams coming from the West Coast because they play so many games, and he's like, it's so they look so much at football, they didn't really think about the other sports and how these were going to be affected.
then you also hear, because I heard something about ESPN deal. ESPN offered each school $30 million in the Pac-12, and they said no. They wanted $50 million, and ESPN said, "Sorry, I'm giving you $50 million." But part of that, what I hear, is to basically they wanted so much money to subsidize all the other sports, kind of like the WNBA, kind of like the NBA subsidizes the WNBA. Because how are these teams going to travel across the country?
Yeah,
that don't have any money. They have to
and playing so many games, so his major thing was like, look, you're playing a game, you're trying to leave somewhere at 8 o'clock at night, fly back, go to class, and then have a game 2 days later, fly back across the country,
Mhm.
right? How do they stay in school? Like, how do they be successful in their academics? In these some of these, because football's once a week, right? That's not the and it's on a Saturday. It's not like they have these weekly games, or during the week.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because they were talking like just all the sports, just like soccer or whatever, and it's these teams don't take planes like football
Right, right.
players do. They take buses. But how are you going to take a bus from you know LA to Michigan,
No, they're flying JetBlue.
right?
You
You're going to be
know?
on the road your whole college life.
Yeah. I thought that was a pretty valid point that he was making when you start to think about that. That it seems like this was all done around football without taking into account the other sports.
Well, it
Um,
totally is. I mean, granted, when I say the Pac-12 has not been good for a while, mostly it's just the big three sports. They haven't been very good at basketball lately. Baseball, they have no match for the SEC, and just like football, they're no match for the SEC. So
I don't know about that.
really,
yeah, Oregon State, I mean, had some good baseball years.
well, that's one
Um,
team. I'm just talking about. I mean, the last 5 years. Look at basketball. Last year they had an okay game.
Basketball's been rough.
Yeah,
UCLA's come back around. Arizona hasn't been what they used to be. So I could see a little bit of that. USC's coming on strong though in
yeah.
basketball.
It was the year before they only had three teams in the tournament.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, and that happens sometimes. And it's just, you're just talking over the last, like, because that's how you get recruits long term is when you have success like 5 years ago, but they sucked
Right.
5 years. So they're coming back. But this, I don't see how this helps. It's, I guess it helps when you can pay players now, which they're going
Right.
to do, which
Here,
like a lot of these teams are doing right now. They're paying them to transfer as well,
Right.
which is ridiculous.
so the Pac-12 has the most NCAA titles out of any conference in all sports.
Well, that's including. I'm talking about just the big three. I'm talking about the men's sports. Those are the ones that generate revenue. The other ones do not.
Right.
That's the problem here.
Well, I could just say, I mean, I get that, but they have 553 championships, over 200 more than the next league.
Oh, of course. But how many national championships have they won in football in the last 20 years? USC. That's
Well,
it.
yeah, you're talking about money makers, which is different, right? I mean, that's an issue.
And then
Anytime,
basketball, they haven't won since 1997 a national championship. The
that was
only one, I mean,
UCLA.
Oregon State is the last, or I think it's Oregon State's the last one that's won at baseball,
Yeah,
which is
baseball.
good. I mean, Oregon State, yeah, great. But I mean, we're talking the big three here. Those are the ones that generate the revenue. And baseball doesn't even generate the revenue yet, even though it should. But yeah, women's sports, of course, we dominate everybody. But do you think this is going to help women's sports, especially when they don't really make any money and they have to travel all over the place now? It's not going to really help them.
Well, what's interesting too, when you kind of talk about it, because you think about like old school basketball, like obviously UCLA was just dominant long time ago, right? But I guess when you look at like what you're talking about in that like downfall over time, it almost feels like they have to make a move.
Well, yeah. I mean,
So what's good out of this? Like, how does this help college football? That'd be another question. So, because football's obviously the reason this is happening. So, how does this help or hurt college football? So let's talk football for a second. Um, one of the arguments I heard, and I'll throw this out first, was it helps the Big Ten by creating uh, games from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m., right? In the midnight, basically. So you could go and watch Big Ten football from Saturday morning when you wake up to, late night, because now they've got that East Coast, middle and West Coast. And so I could see that why the Big Ten wants to do that. I mean, is this a good thing for college football? Does it compare to the SEC? What are
I
your
think
thoughts?
I think also we have to see what the format's going to be. Obviously, if they're going to have a West division, right? I think they want to have 3 divisions. So, yeah, scheduling. I mean, everything's up in the air. I haven't seen any sort of outline of what they want to do as far as like Pac 12 teams playing. You know, how they're going to set it up. So it's hard to say. Until we see what the what the schedule is going to look like, the format's going to look like. Oh,
How does this make the Big Ten compared to, say, the SEC now?
They're still behind. I mean, the SEC just added Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think you look at the not even
So,
let's not even look at
well,
the
because
teams.
you're talking about adding UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington. Those are 4 pretty good schools.
Well, like Wes said, when was the last time they won a championship?
Right.
Let's put Oregon up against some SEC schools. How have they been doing lately? Not so well. And really, when you look at both conferences, just look at the quality of players. Look at the people that are. Look at Georgia. Basically, drafted their whole defense.
Yeah.
Like at last couple of years. Look at the quality players of an SEC school versus a Big Ten school, and they're still quite a bit better. Even though Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan have done well, and
Right.
Penn State's doing better. But let's talk about the bottom tier. Look at Nebraska.
So wait, is there any incentive now, though, for a Texas player, like a good Texas high school football player, now to go to USC, UCLA because they're in this bigger conference? Because they were losing a lot of those. They used to get good Texas players in California, and that kind of stopped over the last 10 years, 15 years or so. So is there more incentive now for them to go there to play in the Big Ten, to play against the Ohio States and the Michigans and be in the
No,
Spire
because they're not
Conference?
going, they don't have a Texas school. So, like, if I'm, a big time recruit from Texas and I look at, okay, USC or Alabama, and I'm like, okay, well, I know if I go to Alabama, they'll play Texas twice a year or Texas A&M twice, you know what I mean? Twice
Right.
in my career, at least. And I think Texas A&M every year. So, I'm going to have some games in Texas. Or if you go to USC, you don't have any games in Texas at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's the thing is the SEC did it smart. They got into Texas.
right.
Where Big Ten was good, they got into California.
Well, so then do California players now stay at home because of that reason? Or because California was also losing a lot of players to Texas and to the
Well, now they'll
SEC.
probably lose them to Ohio State or Michigan.
In Michigan. So it's kind of like either way they're losing out. So they lost them to SEC. Now they're going to lose them to the other Big Ten schools.
Well, they lose them to Oregon too. I mean,
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of dynamics to it, when you think about all the different things that are happening. Um, so let's just say just for the schools themselves, and I want to kind of focus on Oregon and Washington for a second. Does this help or hurt Oregon and Washington?
I think they had no choice. That's why they took less shares because they were like, "Oh, great, the ship is sinking. We need to do something." So we're like, "Oh, let's just go to the Big Ten and we'll take less shares."
Well, do they become now a kind of a lower tier team? And because Oregon, Washington, be honest, like they have a chance both every year to win the Pac-12. Do they really have a chance to win the Big Ten?
Depends on what conference they're in. If they're not with Michigan and Ohio State, right?
Right, but they still have to play a championship game, right?
Yeah. Anything can happen in a championship game, though.
Yeah, and the thing is this: the big thing is the playoff. That changes everything because
when they go to 12 teams,
you're probably gonna see them lump the old Pac-12 teams together just because of being realistic. You shouldn't lump them with the East. I mean, Ohio is basically East Coast. It's all like Penn State is East Coast. Why would you lump West Coast teams with those? Because in the end, you are going to have a championship game. And anyways, they're going to have to play some of those East Coast games anyways. So they're probably going to put all the West Coast teams, and then you divide it East and West. Maybe you have a Central, and then you have a championship game.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter if the Pac-12 team loses the championship game. They're probably going to be in the playoff. And they're probably going to play in the Rose Bowl.
Well, if they go to that 12-team playoff, right, even the loser of these SEC Big Ten championship games are probably still going.
You're basically having 4 conferences. The loser is going to be in the playoff. And then you add 4 at-large teams. So, I mean, all that really doesn't matter too much. It's just a bragging rights and recruiting
So basically, like all these teams just moved, and then they're still going to be fighting for the same spot that they're fighting for in the Pac-12 to get into a bigger championship tournament.
Right. Well, because if you look, like Wes was saying earlier, the bottom of the Big Ten is pretty garbage.
Right. Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, Illinois, Northwestern comes and goes, Rutgers, Indiana, Minnesota, Purdue, like comes and goes, Maryland, and I'm sorry, Steve, Nebraska.
Yeah,
but pretty bad.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what they would finish in the Pac-12.
You have another thing.
That's a big question
because a lot of these bowl games, Big Ten's match in the lower seeded teams. They're matched up against SEC teams, and a lot of times SEC teams beat the Big Ten teams, even though sometimes you got a Big Ten 3 against an SEC 5, and the SEC 5 still wins. So the talent level is just not the same. It's a different style of football. It's an older school style of football, which works sometimes. More power football. But that's going out the window too. All those teams in the Big Ten are starting to just throw the ball all over the place.
But basically, what you guys are saying though now is that the Big Ten then got significantly better by adding these 4 schools. Because basically, you just named like 6 schools that are very good, right? And all, sorry.
3 perennial top Pac-12 teams, right?
Right, that's what I mean. So those 4 schools are probably better than those 6 teams you just named, right?
Oh, yeah.
Overall, right? So they really probably doubled the amount of good teams in their conference, which does put them a little closer to the SEC. Maybe not, obviously not as good, but closer than before when you're talking about a 2 or a 3 Big Ten losing to a 5 SEC, right?
And another thing about those 4 teams going to the Big Ten, they also play a little more exciting brand of football. Maybe they don't play much defense.
Right.
Obviously.
That does
help. That does help when people am I going to really watch this game at night? It's like, not,
Yeah, when you're watching like a 7-3 Maryland game, right?
So, who wants to? Look at Maryland's offense. What offense?
Right.
Well, though, if you talk about the SEC, they're top to bottom, though. I mean, their bottom, you got Vanderbilt, which is bad.
Yeah.
But other than that, everybody's decent, at least.
Right. They got a lot of solid teams for sure.
Even though the East hasn't been as strong, but it's still better than the bottom of the Pac-12.
I just can't believe. Why did Missouri go to the SEC? They should have gone to the Big Ten.
Oh,
yeah. They would have done much better.
Yeah.
because they would have
I
been a top 5 team.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
because I think you're gonna probably see them eventually go to Big 12. I think they're gonna see the light and they're gonna do. There's like some sort of option where they could probably get out, and I think they'll probably eventually do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. I like the thoughts on that. I wanted to get in that, but I do want to get into some NFL here. I want to let's start with preseason NFL has launched. Good first week. I don't know how many games you guys watched. I didn't catch too many games, but obviously I looked, at a lot of the box scores and the game cast, watch a lot of the highlights and things like that. So a couple things. So we're in 3-game preseason, right? Which I think is nice. I think that's a good thing for the NFL. I might be okay with a 2-game preseason. I don't know about you guys, but
After watching the first week, I'd be okay with a no game. I mean,
Well, I mean,
but realistically, you gotta have
you gotta give some of those guys chances to play, though, right?
Yeah.
So I do like the 3 games. Like I said, I might be in favor of a 2-game. Um, so first of all, I do want to talk about injuries for a second. Because Wes, you and I were talking about this the other day. Like these camp injuries, these things, especially for these players. These guys have been playing for a long time. They're veterans or they're stars that are on their 3rd or 4th year. You know, like how much should teams be playing these guys and how much should they be focused on let's not get them injured for the start. I mean, even Devontae Adams is having a leg issue right now. And it's
yeah,
like
that was going to happen.
what?
It's not a bad leg issue. It's
but yeah, so here's the thing,
he wasn't going to play.
Is it a real leg issue or is he just like I don't want to play? So why even like make that a thing is what I'm saying. Like maybe
Right. Well, he wasn't going to play anyway.
They have to fake an issue to like not go to camp or to be able to take it easy.
Well, I don't know. I think they were doing camp with the Niners. And usually when they do camps with other teams, it gets pretty what would you call
A little heated,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And I think he just tweaked something. It's nothing serious. And then he wasn't going to play this week anyway. He's not going to play at all preseason.
They're still getting hurt though outside of the games is the problem, right? You got Jalen Ramsey, you got Joe Burrow. Like, I mean, there's tons of other ones, but those are some big.
Well, that's going to happen. I mean, those are just practice.
Right?
We're talking about practice.
I know that. So I guess that's the question: is like, how much should you be more focused on? Maybe like walkthroughs, and just focus on playbooks and going through that stuff and not really pushing them too hard.
Well, it depends because think about like for the Raiders, you have a new like the teams have new quarterbacks. They got to get timing down.
Yeah.
It's like Derek Carr with the Saints. He's got to throw the ball to Thomas and Olave and stuff and get the timing of how their routes are ran. So you can't really do walkthroughs with them. You actually got to have them run their routes.
Yeah.
It's really it's a hard thing to do, but a lot of these guys they get dinged up in training camp and they'll sit or they'll get treatment or I mean that's just the nature. A lot of these guys aren't high school, college age anymore. They're older. So they're going to have those things. The Burrow thing was weird just because he didn't get touched. That was just strange how he just, I look like Achilles to me. I'm like, oh shit, you better take care of it.
So they could, you're saying they could be running 7-on-7 drills, right? And still get hurt or 7-on-0 drills, right? Just running routes. And so yeah, that does make sense. And so these guys are coming and playing preseason. So what do you guys think about the preseason, the first weeks in the books? Looking at some of the guys that played, and like Derek said, some of these guys have to play, right? So you see some of these cases where Jordan Love, for example, like you need to get reps from him. And so these guys got to play. Even Trevor Lawrence played. Trevor Lawrence played some.
Mahomes played.
Mahomes played.
Yeah, Mahomes
Derek
played.
Carr played. I mean, some of these guys did play, but they only play one series.
Right.
And they're some. I mean, they're. I mean, I watched Derek Carr, and they threw the ball, kinda. He kind of just sat back there for they didn't get the ball out too fast. But a lot of these times they're getting the ball out pretty quickly. They don't want to take any chances.
Yeah.
They're just
especially most of them are playing on second or third string lines.
right.
Yeah.
And some of these guys complain about, which is weird, is like, well, I want to get into game speed. I just don't want to go out there the first week of the season. You got to kind of build up to game speed. And sometimes you can't do that in practice. And that's the catch-22 here. It's like, it's you don't want to go out the first week and just get hit right in the mouth. Like, remember, was the Packers just got drilled the first week, like just killed, and then it kind of changed the trajectory of the whole season. They had to play catch up the whole season. It seems like
Right. You mean last year? Yeah, you're talking about last year's game.
Yeah.
Trey Lance getting sacked like 4 times.
Oh my god.
Well, I mean, because then you got guys like C.J. Stroud who had a rough outing, right? Bryce Young didn't look so good.
Richardson didn't look good.
Richardson didn't look great. Although they named Richardson. Richardson's now the starting quarterback.
There. You saw he made a bad interception, but you saw the ability. I mean,
he's going to have the good and the bad. This year's going to be like, with Richardson, you're going to be like, oh my God, why did you do that? And then the next time he gets the ball, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like the greatest play ever.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. He's going to be a little like Justin Fields, but I think the advantage Richardson's going to have is Jonathan Taylor's coming back. He said he's coming back into camp. He's a solid running back. He's a good person to hand the ball off to. Their line's not terrible with when they're healthy. So I think he's got some advantages there that Fields didn't. But I still think you're going to see a lot of Fields or Richardson in what Fields did in his first, year.
Running for his life.
Well, but also just showing his mobility, showing his ability to throw on the run, but missing some throws, overthrowing a few times, making some bad decisions, things like that. So I think you'll see that out of Richardson. I think it was a good move, though, for the Colts to come out and say, hey, he's our guy. We're starting him. I think that builds his confidence. If you saw the announcement, he was like, he was pretty shocked, or he was a little overwhelmed about them saying, hey, we've decided, we're going with you.
Well, that's why I like him, and I don't think he's going to be a bust, because he is very humble and he is a hard worker too. So that's a lot of the times the busts come in and they have all the talent in the world and then they don't work hard.
Right.
If you watch the Johnny Manziel documentary.
Yeah, it's a little Manziel. Well, but to be fair, Merrill Hodge knew 100% Johnny Manziel was going to be a bust.
That was also
who was the other one?
He spoke into reality.
Clowney, dude. He called Clowney too. Remember that? Like when he did the Clowney and the Manziel. That was great.
And that's why we miss someone like a Merrill Hodge, because he actually knows what he's talking about.
Well, because he does the research, he watches film, like he understands football. He played football, number one. Yeah. That helps, right? A lot of these guys, you're a career announcer, and so CJ Stroud. I want to talk about Stroud for a second. He didn't look horrible, but he didn't look great, at all. Is he one of those guys that might have that issue of too much confidence, like you're talking about? Like, maybe he needs to be more humble. Maybe he needs to sit back for a second and kind of learn the game again.
Well, I don't know too much about him, but I just kind of feel like with the Texans, they're going to have to rely on like Dameon Pierce, and he's going to have growing pains too, because he's not like the only one of the quarterbacks that looked like a true like ready to go was Bryce Young, but he was short, right? But yeah, I don't know. I guess really the only one ready to go is Aiden O'Connell.
Right.
Yeah, I think
he had a pretty good
growing
game.
pains. Huh?
Yeah, he had a pretty good game. No, yeah. So I'm interested to see what happens to CJ Stroud because I want to see like how he develops into that. I want to see if he stays within the offense. A couple things that I saw about him, and I guess it's his first preseason, but I also saw it in some of their training camp. He gets real happy feet. He moves out and he makes decisions that I don't necessarily think that are NFL decisions. I think they're college decisions of where he could throw the ball and the speed of the people that he's dealing with on defense. I think that's something that college quarterbacks some of them have a hard time adjusting to,
He
like
had
the difference.
his junior year, he had kind of that phase too. Like he kind of went through that, and everyone's like, "What's wrong with him?"
Right.
He wasn't as accurate. He just tends to be that way. He almost reminds me kind of a Geno Smith in a sense. I think
Where he's going to be good in 10 years.
yeah. I mean, you're hoping maybe like less than that, but just the way he throws the ball,
yeah, no, I
throw it
agree.
from so many different angles. That's
Right,
great,
right.
but sometimes that gets you in trouble,
Well,
and
I
it's
think
just like
well, I think with him is, and like you said, his junior year, he did struggle. And it's probably because his senior year, he was a lot more comfortable in the offense. He knew what he was doing. See, he's learning a whole new offense. And that's the thing with the quarterbacks, they have to know everything. So that's always hard for a rookie to do.
Well, does that Wonderlic test come into play now? That really low IQ rating that they get. I mean, you don't want to like say the guy's like not smart, but at the same time, like he
it's kind
rated
of
really
brutal
low.
though. Like,
Well, I mean,
hey,
is
you're
it
not
right?
smart.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it is
is it
brutal to
really?
say, but
It's more like memorization and just like doing
right.
it. It's like anyone, if like, when you start a new job, at first you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then like, if you're there for like 6 months, all of a sudden you're like on cruise control because you know exactly how to do
Yeah.
everything, right?
Because some people come in and just do it, right? Like some
Yeah.
people, and there's quarterbacks like that, or there's players, like that just come in and they're like, you know what, maybe I don't know anything, but I'm just gonna do it. So
Like Aiden O'Connell coming
like
in, learning Josh McDaniel's
O'Connell.
system.
Wait a minute, was
You
his
guys,
score high?
you might have a new quarterback here. You don't even need. Well, Jimmy G is
Well,
gonna
They
get hurt.
played one
Yeah.
game without Joey Bosa. Remember that guy Joey Bosa? Let's see how it does against Joey Bosa coming
Well,
out.
Hey,
but
Wes, Trey Lance went up against the second string of the Raiders, who had like the 26th worst in sacks.
Aiden O'Connell's better than him. I mean, come on.
Well, I'm just saying
He's just the third pick in the draft.
Here's the thing, dude. You guys should know that Garoppolo will be hurt by week 3, right?
Oh yeah,
So you gotta have something in place.
But you know what? He just, all those commercials they do with them. Like, did you see those commercials? I'm like trying to get people to buy tickets. Like, yeah, we got a great model at quarterback. Yeah, I got to hand it to him. He's a good-looking guy. Can he play football? That's the thing.
Right.
Is he hurt? Is he going to be hurt? What's wrong with him?
I'm fine. I kind of feel like if Garoppolo gets hurt, that's good. Then you see what you got in O'Connell. And if he's not any good, then you're going to have a great draft pick to get a good quarterback.
Right. You have a horrible year.
Or if he is good, then oh my gosh, okay, you might make the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Slow down there, Derek.
Let's just, what?
You look
I agree with you on one thing. Is their defense, I liked what I saw from their defense. It was the playmaking. Hey, they're making plays. They're punching out the ball. They're getting interceptions, even though the Niners quarterbacks are very subpar. Very subpar. but still,
we're
a
still in
turnover's a turnover.
preseason one. We're still in preseason one because so calm down a little, Wes.
Well,
as I'm watching the Bears right now playing the Titans right now, this game.
Well,
That
I
was
mean,
kind of that was a
I would
sloppy
talk
game.
about Justin Fields though, with coming out DJ Moore 3 for 3, throwing two 60,
Did
50
you
yard
see the
touchdowns.
defense though?
Yeah.
you're throwing it for like -1 yard, and then the guy running it.
Yeah, that's
the first play to DJ Moore. DJ Moore catches the ball. I could just reenact it for everybody right now. Caught the ball and he ran, and there's nobody in front of him. He ran for 70 yards.
it's good play calling. Is what it was.
It was. True. Yeah.
And a very good throw by Justin Fields.
It was.
Hit it right on time.
Well, that's what you got to do with younger quarterbacks too, is give them
Right.
easy throws.
Right.
Doesn't
And
get much
I think-
easier than that.
Kind of, I think where Bryce Young and CJ Stroud struggled, if you watch the little time that they did play, they weren't making anything easy for them. They weren't calling plays where there was a couple easier throws, but still, even the easier throws, you kind of knew it was coming because of the down and distance and things like that. And so I don't think they made it easy on them.
Well, that's
at the beginning.
for you, Steve. You know this experience. Like Mitch Trubisky, they did not make anything easy for him.
Right. Yeah, you need to.
And that's the problem with rookie quarterbacks. You got to make it easy for them.
Right.
So speaking of not making it easy in the preseason, it's kind of like last year. You have those games where, hey, it's entertainment. You have a couple beers. Drew Lock is entertainment because you just never know what you're going to get out of Drew Lock. I'm like, he throws a 10-yard pass into triple coverage. I mean, if you're going to throw into triple coverage, at least get it to 20-25.
Right.
Interception.
I think sometimes he throws to the stands, like he's trying to hit the third row.
It's like he's playing golf. He's just aiming for a target, like out.
So let's talk about
I wanted to want one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to make Steve happy with this one. Man, did you see how well Mr. Unlimited played? Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean,
against the Cardinals' second stringers.
Yeah.
He had to play a whole half to get a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think looking at first round, obviously, I mean not first round, first week of the preseason, there's a lot of things you got to look at because you got to look at some guys have experience, some guys don't, who they're playing against. Like Derek, you said, sometimes it's a second or third string line that they're behind. And so it's hard to judge, a lot of that stuff. But I think it does give you a good look at what some of the teams are getting ready to do. Who they want some of the reps coming from, especially some of these like quarterback controversies or where they have multiple quarterbacks. They don't know necessarily who's going to play. A lot of good things to see there. But what I wanted to move to was some of the additions that we've seen. So obviously Dalvin Cook's a big one for the Jets. So what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, and I don't want to get crazy, but I've seen sportscasters saying, does this make the Jets a contender? How good is Dalvin Cook for the Jets, and how good is that move?
He's good, but I still think they're below the Bills because I mean they had Breece Hall, who was not bad.
Right. And Breece Hall's back too, so they have both.
But I still think the Bills are better. The Jets will make the playoffs, but I still think the Bills are better for that division.
I think it's gonna come down to how they use him. If you could, like I say, you put him in the slot, you can put him in different places to kind of just spread out the defense a little bit more, and you can run Hall. You can kind of put him in. There's a lot of things you can do with him, which it makes it good because it helps you attack the edges a lot better. Right. And then you can get deep with the other receivers. But
Garrett Wilson, and the other guy.
It just depends how they use them. If
Yeah.
they're just going to put them in the backfield and run them up the middle, no, it doesn't help. It doesn't really make them a contender to me. But if they find a way to get him the ball in space, they are dangerous because he is dangerous in space.
Yeah. I mean, he is the best receiving back in the league. So
Of all time.
Ever. Of all time.
Of all time, yeah. So
Oh
I guess there is an advantage here, though, right?
I was
Because
drinking. Sorry.
I mean, no. Cook is a lot like what's his name, Aaron, the running back that Aaron Rodgers just had. Why can't I think of his
Aaron
name?
Jones.
Aaron Jones, right? So he is a lot like Aaron Jones in the fact that yes, he can catch the ball outside of the pocket. You could line him up in a slot, which I think that's really good for Aaron Rodgers to have a similar back to his Aaron Jones to come in with him. So I think that helps him a lot, especially considering Breece Hall is healthy now. And so you've got a pretty good two-back system there. Their defense is solid. Maybe they can't. I don't know. I'm not always sold on the Bills, but yeah, maybe they can't overcome the Bills. But are they still a playoff team? Probably, right? And then once you're in the playoffs, it's kind of anybody's game, right?
And again, the thing is, you hear this noise a little bit about Rodgers being a little frustrated with his offensive line. And he kind of knew in the draft when people are like, oh, they didn't get the guy they wanted. They're chasing and all this stuff, that the line might be an issue, which makes it even more of a good thing for them to get Dalvin Cook.
Right.
Because, if you're having problems with your line, you got to get the ball. You got to confuse the defense more.
Rodgers isn't taking sacks, though. He's the last guy in the league to take sacks.
True.
He gets rid of the ball one way or another.
He will, to a certain extent. It just changes the dynamic a little bit more with Dalvin. Right. Because he gets the ball in his hand fast, and when you get it to someone fast like that, it could really they could be dangerous. They're more dangerous than they were, I think.
Right.
The only caveat I have to this is, what do the Vikings know?
Right. Why do they get rid of him?
Why would you get rid of him and just have Madison as your only back? Not like draft one or anything like that. Has he lost a step?
Right.
Possibly.
Madison's always been solid, though. I think Madison runs the ball between the tackles really well. It may come down to a pay thing, right? Maybe they just don't want to pay him. Or maybe it's just like this whole stigma around running backs, too. I don't know. I outside of a few injuries, I think Dalvin Cook's looked good for the last couple years, even getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. But I also think that Madison is better than he always got credit for, too. I always thought, because I mean, every time Dalvin Cook got hurt, the first thing I did is went on the waiver wire and picked up Madison, dude, and he always gave me huge fantasy points. So I've never had any negative thoughts for Madison. He's always helped me out a lot. So a couple other moves. There's been quite a few moves. We've talked about some of the quarterback moves in the past. Obviously, Carr or Garoppolo. Those are moves. Do the Patriots benefit at all from Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, I mean, they got Stevenson also, so it's just a good two backs.
Yeah.
It's just I guess they're last in the league as far as like efficiency, like short yards efficiency. So it does help in that.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of a power back, in different situations.
Excuse me, red zone. No, it's just it helps because they need all they can help. They can get all the help they need in the red zone at this point, which they're going to have to fix those things. But I think I think he's going to come in good form. I think
Right.
he kind of just kind of mailed it in sometimes with the Cowboys because they're the
Yeah.
Cowboys. Why wouldn't you mail it in? It's a
the
lost cause in the first place. So now
wait,
you're not going to do that with Bill Belichick.
right. So that's the question: is does he come in with more fire, more flame? Does he look like an earlier Zeke? That what if he does? Like, how much then does it help them? What if he does come in and he's running the ball strong like he did?
I brought it up before. Corey Dillon. Remember
Right.
when he
Oh
came
yeah,
over?
everybody was like, thought Cincinnati's done, right?
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blunt.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe Zeke's the next Corey Dillon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing I said about, tackling Marshawn Lynch back in the day in December and January in the rain, no fun. Nobody wants to do that. And the same thing you could say about Zeke and Stevenson. If they actually get into the playoffs, they could be their workhorses, and you can actually see a team that actually makes a run by running the football power. But you're asking a lot of Zeke to do that on his own. They both have, again, it has to be a three-headed monster.
Right.
Nowadays, if there's no one guy anymore, nobody's Walter Payton.
Well, I'll say when Stevenson took over when Harris got hurt, the Patriots were a much better offense.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Stevenson's solid, and I think when if Zeke comes in and puts a little bit of effort in, like I don't think he's done with the Cowboys for a while. You watch him run with the Cowboys, he looked like he wasn't even trying. If he actually put in a little effort, that's a decent 1-2 punch.
Yeah, it is.
He's not that old. Like he hasn't been around that long. I think it was more just a motivational thing.
Yeah.
When I watch him, that's what I think. But I don't know. Maybe he has just shit mailed it in. So we'll find out.
I don't understand why he's not motivated by Mike McCarthy, because he's the most motivating coach I've ever seen.
Right. Well, and you got Dak at quarterback. Like, why wouldn't you? So that was an interesting move. A couple other moves that I saw. Zadarius Smith to Cleveland. I thought that was interesting. I think that really takes some pressure off Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
So you may see Garrett have a big year, or Zadarius Smith has a big year. So I think that was another move out there. Yannick to the Bears. I think that's really helpful for them. They needed that in the worst way, right?
He's a solid 8 to 10 sacks a year. I mean,
right. So I think that was a solid move. Obviously, there's some of the other big moves around there. Like, I mean, how do the Ravens offense? How does that change? So Dobbins obviously coming back, but you add Beckham, you got Bateman. Like, what's the Ravens offense do this year? And this will transition to our next topic. Does that put Lamar back in the area where he could be an MVP type quarterback?
Spoiler alert, when we do our picks, I got the Ravens winning that division.
He's already picked it.
I mean, look, yeah, you've got Andrews, you got Beckham, you got Bateman, you got, Lamar's back. He's paid, he's happy.
Right.
When he's healthy, and that's a big if, but when he's healthy, they're the best team in that division.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost beat the Bengals last year with Tyler
Right.
Huntley in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What about Lamar in particular? Is he an MVP candidate?
Oh yeah, he definitely would be. He was almost one last year until he got hurt. So he's always going to be in the MVP conversations.
Yeah.
I think he's a dual threat.
He's got more weapons. He's healthier, it looks like. I think the idea is of course they want to throw more now, and I think they will. I think he run a little less, protect himself, don't make any stupid plays, and I think, yeah, he's an MVP. He's probably the leading candidate for MVP at this point. There's some wild cards, but that's a solid pick right there. And I don't know what the plus and minus is on that, but it's got to be pretty.
I mean, you got to think Mahomes is the favorite, right?
Or Hurts.
Or Hurts. I guess you could throw Hurts in there.
Yeah, Hurts would probably be second.
I would think Mahomes is still the favorite.
Oh yeah.
But I see like the reason I brought it up is because I see the benefits for Lamar. I think it was the contract thing was a big deal this year. I think it's now he's not motivated by that anymore. I think now he's motivated by a ring. Like, because now what's his next step, right? His next step is to win a championship.
Well, yeah, it is. And I think also there is personal goals too. I think, instead of running for 1,000, I think they would be much better suited if he ran maybe half that.
Right, 500-600 yards.
And threw for
4,000. Right.
Yeah. And so I think he wants to be known more as a passer too.
Yeah.
I think there's all this noise that, well, maybe his delivery is not right, which it's not. But still, with those weapons, it doesn't really matter. And if they use him in the right way, dropping him back less and kind of using those half rolls, he's a lot better throwing the football. And
well, when you got Mark Andrews in there, that's a big, like Mark Andrews makes a huge difference.
He's like Kelsey. He's like a Kelsey. He just opens up,
he opens up the field quite a bit, and I think that's really helpful in Lamar's case.
Wes, get in the car now. Lamar is plus 1,600.
Plus 1,600, huh?
Dude, I'm going to A&A right now. All right, see you guys later.
I was going
to go to A&A anyways after this.
This is the Vegas Insider with all the MVP odds, and they got Mahomes plus 600, Burrow plus 700.
Wow,
that's
Josh Allen plus 700. Justin Herbert plus 900. Then Hurts plus 1,200.
Whoa. Yeah, he doesn't throw the ball right.
And then you got a tie. This is where it gets crazy. This tie: Lamar, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, and Dak.
Wow,
at all 1,600.
1,600.
Where's Tyreek Hill? That's my wild card right there, Tyreek Hill.
Well, so
weirdly, they only got quarterback. Oh, here we go. Tyreek Hill.
What running back?
15,000.
What running back are you going to put in there? Oh, no. I mean, it's tough to throw a running back in there.
Yeah.
Well, the top one is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry at plus 15,000.
Right. 15,000, huh?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this for a second.
No, here's what's crazy. Sorry to cut you off, Steve. Bailey Zappi is plus 15,000. Devontae Adams is plus 20,000. Just think about how much they know that quarterbacks get the MVP.
Bailey Zappi is going to be an MVP before Devontae Adams, huh?
Dude, he's going to be like Kurt Warner. He's just going to come out of nowhere. Because Mac Jones is not, what are the odds of Mac Jones not being a starter past week 7?
They're probably pretty good, to be honest with you. Yeah, but let's talk about MVP. I mean, obviously, odds-wise, we just heard what it is. Do those odds hold true to what you guys believe? Like, do we believe Mahomes is the number one guy out there for MVP right now?
Yeah. He's got the pedigree right now. I mean, you got to give Mahomes. It's like it's like the LeBron thing. It's like every year he's going to be the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. And that's what Mahomes is every year because he's there every year. Besides he got hurt.
He's going to have the stats. Will his stats? So here's the question for Mahomes every year. I think we ask this, especially with Tyreek Hill, even like, can he continue to put up those numbers? I mean, what does he have at receiver, right? He's got an injured Kadarius Toney. He's got Travis Kelce.
He's got a rookie.
Sky Moore.
Yeah, Sky Moore. Got a good running back. Pacheco's
Sky Moore came up big last year, but still, it's not the same. It's like, is he gonna? I mean, yes, he's gonna have probably 40-something touchdowns. Like he had 41 last year. He's probably gonna have around that area again, most likely. The yards probably won't have as many yards, or he might, but yeah, of course, I think he's the favorite. But I think if you're forecasting, I'd watch out for Lamar Jackson. And
so let's minus Patrick Mahomes and let's each pick our MVP. So take Mahomes out. You have to pick an MVP right now, minus Mahomes. Who are you going to pick?
Oof.
It's a tough one.
Well, it's all predicated on injuries because for me, the way he was playing last year before injuries, I would take Tua.
I mean, he was right there because he's got solid receivers. Would have really helped, but they still got good running backs regardless. Like he didn't need Cook, but Cook would have helped.
But then also it's the story.
Right.
Because the NFL would love that because then they're like, oh yeah, the concussions, he didn't hurt him. He came back and won the MVP.
Right.
Yes, in a weird way, that is true.
In a weird way, that's true.
I mean, that is the NFL. Oh wow! Just like, hey, look, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and what do you know? The draft in Kansas City. Woo! Now we can listen to freaking Travis Kelce for fucking 4 hours.
So
nice.
I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. So if I'm going to take Mahomes out, I'm going to go with Hurts because I think getting rid of Miles Sanders just makes Hurts more likely to run the ball more, get more rushing touchdowns. They're still going to run their crazy quarterback sneak. And I think Smith and Brown just get better, right? They're young guys anyway. They're getting better. I think Hurts is getting better. I think they got a little bit of chip from losing the Super Bowl. So I'm going to take Jalen Hurts. If I'm going to take out Patrick Mahomes, my odds on is Hurts.
And
so we got Hurts, we got Tua. What do you got, Wes?
You guys already know who I got.
Burrow.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I know you got Burrow.
Got it, man. Dude, when the cards are on the table, it doesn't matter. It's limping around there on a bad calf, the calf, the $1 million calf right there. It doesn't matter. He's got Jamar Chase, got Higgins. It doesn't matter. You could throw us out there. It's like he's gonna figure it out.
That.
He's gonna throw for more yards probably than anybody. And I still think that they win the division. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna be tight. But I'm gonna go with Joey B.
Yeah. I don't think that's terrible at all. I mean, obviously he's a pretty high odds on favorite.
I think that's
depends
the next
on if he
step.
doesn't play the whole season though.
Yeah, it always comes down to injury. I think that's kind of the benefit to Mahomes in that whole situation is the guy just doesn't miss a lot of games. Even when he's hurt, he plays.
And here's the thing. Another reason why I kind of have to pick Joey B is because that's who the girls want, man.
Yeah,
have you seen social media? It's ridiculous. This guy does not have a rough life at all. I guarantee you.
Wow, isn't he single? Or is it, I don't know. Is he single?
I don't even know. It's just that's in the Jedi archives right there.
Right.
Because these girls are not unattractive. Let's put it that way.
I mean, ain't nothing wrong with being Joe Burrow. That's for sure. So that's good. We hit that MVP talk. But now, like all of our podcasts are going to go, we're going to talk sports, we're going to talk football throughout the season, and we're going to finish with one of the HSC podcast famous top fives. And tonight we have 80s comedy movies. So we're jumping into this 80s comedy movies top five. I think this is a tough category.
Yeah, it is because I can hardly remember the movies.
Yeah, it's the internet's for Wes. So let's talk about top five HSC podcast, 80s comedies. Derek, your category. So why don't you lead us off? Number five.
Number five, I'm starting off with a Robert Downey Jr. classic, 1986 movie about diving off of a
back to school
diving board into a pool. We're going back to school.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's Rodney Dangerfield, there's always something great about Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Love it. It was in it was definitely in my top 10 at least.
Yeah.
But I think Rodney Dangerfield, I mean, obviously Robert Downey Jr., he plays a good role in that, but
I mean, he's like barely in it. I was just joking.
Right. But I think the great thing about that movie with Rodney Dangerfield is I think he makes that movie what it is because he's not trying to be too funny in the movie. Like sometimes when you watch some of the movies, like they're trying to overly do jokes where he's just kind of naturally funny.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Hey, just watch my sandwich.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. is funny in that movie.
Yeah. No, Robert Downey Jr. is good. And then they got, the dude from Karate Kid.
William Zabka.
The
teacher is that part's like my favorite.
Yeah. Sam Kinison.
Yeah, the Vietnam. Oh, and that's so good.
And then where should we start our fictional business?
Right.
How about Fantasyland?
Fantasyland. Oh, so
dude,
good.
that was the best part.
Yeah, it's great. I love that movie. It was definitely right there in my top 10 as well. So good start off number five. So back to school. All right, Wes, what do you got at number five?
God. I gotta go with Summer School.
Oh yeah.
Summer School.
Mark Harmon.
Why? Because it Chainsaw.
Yeah, Chainsaw.
Chainsaw makes that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so funny. The driving test is the best.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, just putting in around the babe, Crashes the car. You never yell at the driver.
He's drinking on his drinking for his test.
Dean Cameron was great in those school movies.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so the best part about Summer School is, and I'll spoil this because it's in my top five too. It's one of my favorite movies. Is when the dude goes to the bathroom and then comes back at the end of the movie with the bathroom pass and takes the test. It's like, where you been? He's like, bathroom.
Zipper got stuck. Well, and then he got the highest test score.
Right, yeah.
Well, and that's Dwayne Davis, the great football player from the program.
Right.
Oh.
Right. But yeah,
Stonehands too.
Was he Stonehands too?
I think so.
I know he's in the program. Is that the same guy? I mean, he looks kind of the same, doesn't he? But
sure.
Definitely. I think I love that movie also because I think like Mark Harmon played just a real good part in that movie. It's one of my favorites because he just plays that teacher that everybody. If I was a teacher, that's how I would be. So number five for me, the same guy.
He was Stonehands.
Stonehands also awesome. Favorite or number 5 for me. This is a little more slapstick, but Airplane. You know,
Yeah, it's pretty.
so many people in Airplane, but obviously Leslie Nielsen. He's in it. It was funny, but this is the difference between a lot of the other '80s comedies. Some of them are like dramedies, or what do they call them, drama comedies or romantic comedies, everything. This is just pure slapstick. And it just there's just funny line after funny line after funny line. The movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's awesome to watch. And so it's one of those movies that you can just kind of giggle to the whole time without having to try to figure out what's happening in the movie. you know and it's got Kareem in
Bar.
it. It's got Kareem in it. And it's also a movie that would never ever not get canceled today. Like they would cancel that movie in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's canceled. It's retroactively canceled.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, we should. Yeah, we already got that one crossed out.
So Airplane's one of my favorite, where you don't need a lot of story to be funny. It's got a lot of slapstick in it. I think it's great. I mean, surely you've seen this movie. Don't call me Shirley. All right, Wes. What do you got it for?
I'm gonna go with National Lampoon's Vacation.
Go Chevy Chase.
I don't know. I just seen it 50 times. I've watched it 3 times in the last 4. I mean, it's always on TV during the summer.
Right.
I mean, it's just funny. Chevy Chase is like my favorite. He's my favorite from the 80s. Just like the Wally World when he hits the moose.
Oh, it's so good.
Hits the moose. Or Randy Quaid. I mean, it's just, and the dog. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just like, are you kidding me? Aunt Edna, they put her in the back.
They put her on the roof.
Umbrella, and he like, I mean,
oh man, it's so good.
So long, but it's almost like a dark comedy in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's just funny.
Yeah, and it's good. It's like it's the ultimate like dad vacation. Like, what would it be like if you have the worst vacation dad in the world? It's so good. I love it. I definitely get that up there. So we already talked about this one. I have number 4. I got Summer School. And I mean, obviously, if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. And when you talk about like, Chainsaw and Dave, right? The other dude's name is Dave. Like it's like Chainsaw and Dave. And it's just so funny because the things they do, like they get the job at the film, place, and they're like watching it, looking at everybody's film and making copies of their pictures, and just throughout the whole movie, it's hilarious.
And the house party where they set his couch on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, if the thing is like people that are younger, they're like, oh, it's a movie from the 80s. Trust me, when you watch it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's relatable. It's relatable to all the stuff and the whole thing about being in summer school. But there's just so many funny parts built into the story. That each part, I think, even the people that you don't expect to have funny parts in it, the things they do are funny to me. So love that movie. So I got that at 4.
Yeah, I love that movie. I have it in my top 10, but missed it because I wanted to do different ones than you guys. So, so my number 4, directed by Robert Zemeckis from 1980, starring Kurt Russell, and that is Used Cars.
Used Cars. That's so good.
I thought it was 79.
It was
1980.
Oh.
It was really hard for me to take off Used Cars, but it's good. Yeah, you gotta build it up for the audience though, Derek. Come on.
Well, the problem is most of the good quotes have cuss words in it, so I can't really say it on air.
Just the
It's
story's
a classic
funny, though.
movie about a guy trying to his boss dies, and he tries to convince the boss's daughter to keep the used car lot open so he can have a job and he can make enough money to become to run for office. Yeah.
But yeah, and Kurt Russell, like he's funnier than people realize too, which is great about him.
He's like the perfect car salesman.
Right. Yeah, I loved used cars. That was definitely there in the top 10 for sure for me. All right, well, we'll jump into number three. So number three, I got Porky's. Porky's for me, I could easily put this at number one because it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It's hilarious. It's a great story. It's about high school kids having fun. But just the things they do, the different jokes they play throughout the time, and then like the funny things they happen. And uh, what is it? Is that Bob Smith that does that? I think it's him, but no, Bob Clark. Yeah. Anyway, what's that?
Yes, Bob Clark.
Bob Clark, right? So because we're on podcast, I can't talk about too many of the jokes because it's a fairly risque movie. But I'll tell you, one of the first jokes I ever did in grade school was the raw egg and the hard boiled egg joke in the movie, where you like got a hard boiled egg, you got a raw egg, and you're like, and so if you guys remember Jeff Morgan, that's who I did it to. And then I mixed up the eggs and I hit him with the raw egg. Because the joke is you have a hard boiled, right? You have a raw one. You're supposed to throw the raw one down and then hit him with the hard boiled. And so I hit him with the raw egg, and it was hilarious because then he had to go to school because it was before school, and he had raw egg all over his hair. Oh man, it's one of my favorite movies though. Like, there's so many scenes like that though that are just hilarious. And so, if you haven't seen Porky's, you got to watch it. But if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
I have a funny Porky story. It was for Joe's like eighth or ninth birthday. He wanted to watch Porky's, get his parents to rent Porky's, and they're like, "No,
Oh,
that's too,
it would have been better if they didn't know.
No,
Right.
but then what was better is what we got? Dragnet.
Oh,
nice.
I love Dragnet.
How messed up Dragnet was.
Right.
Dragnet, yeah.
I mean, at least in Porky's, you get to see some boobs in the shower. Dragnet, it's like a
Dragnet. You do too. I'm thinking.
Yeah. But it's also like a really dark,
because
like
you have you have
devil worshipping.
Dabney Coleman plays the porn smut king.
Oh yeah.
And so they go to like a Playboy mansion with all. So we're like, oh man, we did get to see Porky's because and then we get this, and we're like, oh,
it's just as good.
Satan worshippers, and
I wonder how many parents. I wonder how many parents are listening to us right now. Like, just parents and kids, like, what is wrong with these? How many childhood these kids had, dude?
That's why we're talking about the 80s. This is the 80s.
Nobody cared then.
So we did in the 80s.
We were free-range kids, except Derek.
Steve has a kid. I've got a kid, so we watch the TV. I watch the cartoon Bluey. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's an episode, and it's like, it was the 80s.
Right. Well, it's that's the way it is now, right? And a lot of these kids' cartoons, like you get references to the because they know parents are watching. Like, they reference stuff that I know Brooklyn has no idea what they're talking about, but I know it instantly what that reference is from.
Oh yeah, it's like it's like when we were watching. I was like 7 watching Cocktail at my grandma's. My parents, we were watching it, and my grandma comes in. You're gonna let your son watch cocktail. And I was like, Grandma, I know what sex is. It's like. No, I didn't say that, but I should have.
Watch plenty of movies.
But I didn't see Porky's. I think
Oh,
I saw Porky's. No.
dude, you have to watch it. It's hilarious. Even today, like I'm gonna watch it when I'm done with this podcast. Like I'm literally gonna go watch it.
Is Holly gonna watch it with you?
No,
We'll get her prepare for the bachelor party.
Yeah.
Have her watch a bachelor party. That's to get prepared for the.
Oh yeah.
Or we could just watch the Vegas one. All right, Derek, what do you got at 3?
Okay, what is 3? Okay, number 3, 1984 classic, Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Ghostbusters is good.
I mean, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd in the 80s is the quintessential, like, he had probably the best comedy movies, I think.
Yeah. They had some good ones. They all played, the 3 of them anyway, played really well together in that role. I think Bill Murray, a little drier comedy in that, but still real funny. I think the Ramis and Aykroyd are kind of like the silly funny or the stupid funny, if you could put it that way. But overall,
Ramis.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Overall, that you bring in all these other characters that kind of add to the movie. So Ghostbusters is good, but it's still that like genre-based comedy, right? That's so much genre-based comedy in the 80s. That's technically like sci-fi drama, All right, 3. Wes, what do you got at 3?
I got Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I see it so many times, and it's just when the car goes out the window. I mean, that just it goes to 3 just because you're just like, are you kidding me? It's just and then it's just
it goes for a 3 to me. Like I could put it back. It was close. Like I took it off very late. When Charlie Sheen's in the police office, he's like, drugs. And she's like, no, I don't want your drugs. No, you're in here for drugs. Dude, it's so funny. And like, there's a lot of funny scenes, obviously, with the principal. But then there's a lot of scenes where it's just them out doing other stuff, right? So it's kind of like a mix for me. So it was real hard to put that one in there because there was too much other stuff going on, which makes it a great movie because it's got a mix of everything. But you gotta love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's iconic.
Again, kids, just not talking to parents, I'm talking to kids. Just
yeah, stay in school.
Very, very useful, very useful tips.
Yeah, yeah. Don't listen to Ferris. All right, good stuff. Number 2, Derek, you're leading us off.
Like I said, Dan Aykroyd had the best comedies in the 80s. I'm going with Trading Places at my number 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't forget that one guy.
Eddie Murphy, yes.
Yeah, he's kind of good.
But Dan Aykroyd is really good in that too, though.
He's great.
Yeah.
But also the brothers are great, dude. Jamie Lee Curtis is good. The other dude that plays the what's his name? He played
Home Elliott.
Yeah, he played in Breakfast Club and all these other movies, and he played the dude that
Gleason is his last name.
Gleason. Paul Gleason. Is it Paul Gleason? Yeah. He's great in that movie, dude.
That's another movie.
Beaks. It's Beaks.
That's another movie I haven't seen. Really?
Oh,
I've never seen Trading. There's
how could you have
I know
not
the,
seen Trading Places?
well, I guess I was like in the 80s. I was like in the emo, like the emo of the 80s. I mean, if there was an emo, I used to watch like just more depressed, but not all the comedies. Like there's
Steve and I
comedies there. I
did
haven't
a
Breakfast
whole
Club. I haven't seen the Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, man.
Steve and I did a whole stop action motion of Trading Places
Right.
for school.
Literally with Star Wars characters. And it's on tape.
Yeah.
No, that was good. Trading Places is really good. Again, so many of the 80s movies though were like that, where they had lots of funny parts, but they all were so embedded in story too. Because of that was a big storyline movie, right? There is, it's like you have this great story and you just keep throwing funny parts in, sprinkling them in throughout the movie. And there was tons of 80 movies like that. That's you could make a list. I think you could make a list of 50 80s movies
Easy.
like that. Comedy storyline movies where it had some comedy, enough to call it a comedy, but still have great plot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like I saw people talk about like Back to the Future as being a good comedy, and because there's funny parts, right?
Funny, but I couldn't put it in the top 5 like that.
Right.
I thought about it because
Right.
I've actually seen it.
That helps.
Yeah.
All right, Wes, what do you got it to?
I got Caddyshack,
Yeah,
number 2.
Bill
It's
Murray.
just again, but just the cast. It wasn't just it was Rodney Dangerfield being him. It's Chevy Chase.
Right.
I mean, Chevy Chase is my favorite. Like how he just so hilarious. He just trips over himself like all the time. You know, like how he talks to Danny, like giving Danny advice. He
But
doesn't
he's like,
follow his own advice. It's like he doesn't keep score. He's like, I don't keep score.
but he's like this really good golfer, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
He's a really good golfer, except in the moment, he's not.
Right.
He just kind of chokes in the moment, just kind of like with women, it's like.
Yeah, Caddyshack's good. Like you can't fault Caddyshack. That's could easily be up there for me. It was definitely in my top 10. Number 2 though, I got National Lampoon's Vacation, obviously, like we talked about it. Chevy Chase is so good in it, but Anthony Michael Hall, I mean, the mom,
Beverly D'Angelo.
but yeah, Beverly D'Angelo. But just the things he does, dude. Like when he goes in the hotel near the end and like goes out and puts on the fancy shoes that cousin Eddie gave him, and it goes
Yeah.
Christy Brinkley in the pool, dude. Like it's just so funny throughout the whole movie. The things he does, the mannerisms that Chevy Chase has, and then the kids fighting, and it's great. It's just a classic funny movie that it's hard for me to say that there's many better movies in the 80s than Vacation. So I got that at 2. All right, number 1. Here we go. HSC Podcast number 1 top 80s comedies. Wes, you're leading us off.
I Yet Coming to America.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, it's just one of those. When I heard they were coming out with the sequel, I was like, no way, But yeah, it's just Eddie Murphy, just that.
Playing so many parts.
Yeah.
So did Arsenio Hall. Like they played multiple parts throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And then McDowell's. Ain't no sesame seeds on my bun.
Samuel Jackson in it.
Yeah, and plays the robber. Yeah, it's great. It's such a good movie. The Soul Glow.
When they get up from the couch and the
It's got the Soul Glow on the couch spot. It's really good. It is good. It was really hard for me to not have an Eddie Murphy movie in my top 5.
Yo, we're gonna talk about honorable mentions in a second.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Eddie Murphy in the auto mentions, but number one, it doesn't get much better than this, and that's Spaceballs. Dude, Mel Gibson, or not Mel Gibson, Mel
Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
That is so funny.
He's so funny with all the things he's ever done, but I think Spaceballs is really his masterpiece for me because it's slapstick in the case of like maybe it's like an airplane slapstick because there's so many good one-liners, but there's also story to it, and then it's spoof on top of it. So you got story, you got spoof, you got slapstick, and then Rick Moranis playing Dark Helmet. Then on top of that, you got John Candy, and you got Bill Pullman playing Lone Star and Barf. Like, isn't it any funnier than this? Like, and then all the different adventures, and then you even got the dude that played in Police Academy making the noises for the radar, and just Rick Moranis, the way he plays that part, and he's like, nobody gives me the raspberry.
Except one person.
Yeah, Lone Star. Oh man, it's just throughout the whole movie, it's just funny, line after line after line. But then the whole thing, and then they're like trying to steal the air from another planet, and then they're like sniffing cans of air. Like, come on, man! Like, who thinks of this stuff?
Yeah,
it's so good. So I gotta have Spaceballs at number 1.
Okay. Well, for me, it's hard to go away from this religious movie because they were on a mission from God.
Yeah,
and that
Blues
is
Brothers.
The Blues Brothers.
How do I know? Man, I knew you were going with them.
That was predictable.
It is. It's predictable, but it's valid.
Yeah.
Like, Blues Brothers, great.
Very Belushi and Aykroyd together.
Right.
Yeah, John Candy was in it. Carrie Fisher. Henry Gibson as the Nazi leader. I mean,
it's also one of those movies that's just funny throughout. Like, even when you're not laughing out loud, like you're kind of just laughing through the whole thing.
Paul Rubens as the waiter.
That's a good one. And I'll admit, I purposely left it off because I knew Derek would pick it.
Oh yeah, you knew it was number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it could be top 3, but I was figuring number 1. But I knew it was going to be on there, and so I was like, I'm not going to put Blues Brothers on there for that reason. But I left some honorable mentions, so I left Top Secret off for that reason too, because I thought for sure that you'd put. So this is where I was wrong about a Derek top 5, like, because I love Top Secret.
I love
and I was like, yeah. So I thought you would put Top Secret on there. Very good. Again, same things. It's like it's spoof, but it's funny and good acting and good story, all of it mixed into one.
But for me, like, Top Secret was good, but I would have, if I would have done Kilmer, it would have been Real Genius.
Yeah. Yeah, Real Genius is good too.
My honorable mention, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
And then Better Off Dead with John Cusack.
Yeah, so I had Better Off Dead late. Better Off Dead came off real late. Weekend at Bernie's came off pretty late too. Because I mean, what's more funny than a dead dude like being dragged around?
Yeah. I mean, it's so bizarre though. Yeah.
Right.
I really wanted to do Beverly Hills Cop,
Yes, me too.
and not only that, I just because I watched it the other night and remembering the one thing I want is I want that Lions jacket because of the Lions this year. I want that Lions jacket. I'm gonna wear it on the podcast if I find it.
Right. But there's nothing funnier than the banana in the tailpipe.
The banana tailpipe.
Here, we've got you an anti-banana detector.
Is this the man? Put the banana in the tailpipe. You're not gonna fall for the banana tailpipe again, are you?
Is this the man who wrecked the lounge at the
wrecked the buffet at the Harold's Club this morning? Oh, what? Can he hear through walls? Yes.
Well, and this is my dad loved John Aston in that.
Right.
Taggart. And then
Taggart.
Supposedly they're making another one and he's gonna be in it.
Huh. That's a long time. That's like 40 years later.
Yeah. Because
was it 86? Something like that? No, 80. Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago.
It's
gotta be
86.
I think it was around 86, right? Yeah, and then 88 was
last one's
2.
88.
Right. Well, then they had 3.
Oh yeah, that's really it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think it was 86 to 88.
Yeah, it's in post-production right now, so it doesn't have a timetable, but the cast has got Kevin Bacon, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Eddie Murphy, of course, Judge Reinhold, Paul Reiser, Bronson Pinchot, and John Ashton are all in it.
That's awesome. So it's going to be like Beverly Hills Cop in the retirement center?
Pretty much.
They're like, somebody stole the pudding. Let's figure this out.
Where the depends.
Oh, man. I mean, I guess they're not super old because they were all pretty young when they were doing that.
Well, he's old now. John Ashton's got to be.
Well, he was a little bit older than the rest of them. But Judge Reinhold wasn't super old. Eddie Murphy wasn't super old.
Oh, man. Okay, I got to do math here, but.
Yeah, John Ashton, he's got to be like 70. I would say maybe 72.
75.
Oh, man. Surprised they not bring back the lieutenant. He's 94.
Is Ronnie Cox still around? Let's see.
I don't know.
He's 85.
85. There's some that was the problem with this category was there's so many genre-based comedies that you could have went with. And so many honorable mentions. I mean, when I started doing a list, I had to stop because I was like, it's just going to get too long.
Well, you could have just done a top 5 and just say comedies and just put John Hughes movies.
Right. Yeah, just top 5 John Hughes. Or almost by actor, sometimes too. Right. So there was like even Dragnet, like you bring about Dragnet. I thought that was hilarious,
Well, here's mine of Dan Aykroyd, Wes's of Chevy Chase, Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us, dude. Love Spies Like Us. So good. But even like Big, for example, they listed as a comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
16 Candles, Breakfast Club, like all of these types of movies, right. They always tried to sprinkle that comedy in.
Well, one I took off my top 5 at the last because I'm like, I could, but The Burbs.
The Burbs. What about Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Yeah.
My sister's mad that we didn't have that in.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
But that one, I don't consider, like you talked about, it's a comedy, but it's also a dramedy, though.
But almost everything we talked about is.
Yeah. Right? But that one was like, you dealt with abortion and like.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to it for sure, And then Holly, she'll be mad that I said this, but Policy Academy, which she meant Police Academy, but Police
Oh,
Academy.
I love those movies. At
Police
least the
Academy
first.
was
this guy was
great, dude.
funny.
Police Academy was
Most of them
so
were
funny.
really funny.
I
Dude,
was
the first
actually,
one is the best.
huh?
The first one's the best.
Yes. 2 was on TV the other day. I was watching number 2.
The Citizens on Patrol.
Yeah, Citizens on Patrol. You had
The
David
Blue
Spade.
Oyster Bar.
Yes.
Race bar like in everyone.
Oh, dude.
They
So
are.
it's-
You know what? Yeah,
Steve Gutenberg, dude. Steve
Oh, he's
Gutenberg was good.
Tackleberry, man.
Yeah.
funny.
And Too Tall Jones.
Yeah,
Bubba
he's
Smith.
just there.
It was
Or
Bubba
Bubba
Smith.
Smith. It's Bubba Smith, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Michael Winslow is the
Oh,
Right. The beatbox dude.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, you
What
can't
was-
go wrong
okay.
with Police
Was
Academy.
Citizens on Patrol 3 or 4?
I think it.
Like it was
4.
no, it wasn't for the beach one.
No, that was 5.
5,
Five.
because Gutenberg was gone.
Yeah, 4.
Then it was 4. Yeah, it was before the beach one.
What was 3? Back in when they go back to the academy.
Back to the academy.
Right?
Yeah, back to the academy. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good,
because
dude.
in 5, the Miami Beach one, Matt McCoy takes over for Steve Gutenberg,
Yeah.
and it's not as good.
No,
No.
you can't. That's
Nah.
like taking William Shatner out of Star Trek. Can't do that.
Yeah, Police Academy is good. So that was definitely up there. So yeah, that was the problem, man. So many different movies in that, but that was a good category. I like that category. It's fun to, and now I like just think about all the movies I'm going to go back and watch.
Yeah. Now we're
Like,
gonna
I
have
haven't
to.
seen
No.
that.
Now we're gonna have to do each decade.
Right. Yeah, we'll do the 90s next for sure.
Well, Wes just needs to go back to watch these 80s comedies for the
I
first
know,
time.
Wes. You gotta go back and at least watch the top 5s.
Yeah, my parents just had me watch the R-rated movies.
Well, hey, good thing, Wes. You have Plex, so you have them all.
I know.
And so
Every
tonight
movie-
is Trading Places.
Yeah, every movie we just named, I guarantee you, is on Plex.
I'm pretty sure Trading Places is a rated R movie, Wes.
Oh yeah, you can see Jamie Lee Curtis. Just saying. It's in the 80s, dude. Nothing wrong with that.
I forgot about, Belushi's in that too.
Oh yeah.
And Al Franken before he was.
Oh, it's so
We
funny.
we should probably get going before we corrupt our audience even more.
Right.
Already.
That's all right. That's all right.
They're like
They-
porkies.
Yeah, they love our top 5s. All right, good stuff, guys. So we'll wrap up here. Get back next week with more football as we get closer to the season. What do we got coming? We got fantasy football, HSC podcast. We're going to talk fantasy football, the draft, who you should be drafting. We're also going to come back with our playoff picks. We're going to bring in our playoff picks, talk about our division winners. And so a lot of good stuff to come. And then once the season starts, we jump into weekly picks.
And people leave comments if you want to be part of the HSC podcast Fantasy Football League.
Yeah, I'll leave that.
You should, because they can beat Wes.
Yeah, I'll leave that in the comments of the video, also in the description. See if we can get some people going. But yeah, if you want to be part of HSC podcast fantasy football, let us know. All right, guys. Good podcast. We'll see you guys all next time.